So here's what's going to happen, because we're gonna go all night if we're not careful. I'm going to get right into the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to share with you guys today. The first is my experience in the last sort of 12 months doing some flips through the shows, but also in real life across Canada and the United States. Some of the highs, some of the lows, some of the new stuff that I think is important that hopefully you guys can use. So I'm going to start with the top picks for each country as to where sort of the flips have worked out the best, where there's been the most profit, really. So we'll start up north with Canada. It's been a great year across the country. We've seen a lot of success in Alberta. We've seen a lot of success out east as well. But the best flip we had this year was actually in St. Catharines. So the winning city for me for highest profits, best flips was in St. Catharines, Ontario. I'm going to tell you a couple details about this very quickly. This was actually a heritage home right downtown. The home itself was about 140 years old. And the key to this flip working out so well, because stay away from a home that old, because we know about all the problems that are in there. But really, this was a kitchen, a bathroom, and a mechanical update. We updated a lot of the electrical, a lot of the plumbing. We hardly touched anything outside other than doing some landscaping, because you have to be careful how much money you're going to spend, especially in a market in St. Catharines where there is a cap on what you're going to be able to sell for. We worked quickly. We priced it reasonably. The property was purchased in around the $400,000 range. The renovations were about $140,000, and we sold the property for over $700,000. So, with all the other expenses in there, including the carrying costs, the costs of realtors, there was almost $100,000 in profit, and the whole thing from beginning to end was about 7 months. So pretty good, considering that was one flip that was happening while I did about 16 flips last year. So that was one of 16. That was a really good, solid one. Again, the key was to focus on the kitchen. We added a bathroom. Remember, adding a bathroom to a home, an older home like that only has one bathroom in it, adds a tremendous amount of value. And again, being close to a downtown core, even though it's not a big city, but still being downtown with good walkability, made it a very desirable space. And we had a very quick closing, which was great as well. The second best. Let's talk about the U.S. for a second, because most of the properties that I renovated and flipped this year were in the U.S., which was a great adventure. I mean, we were all over the place. And, I have a home in Florida, so we flipped a lot of places in Florida. Some of them were great. Some of them weren't so great. I'll tell you about that in a minute, because I'm also going to get into an interesting point of view on how you can never lose money on flipping properties. I'll get to that in a minute. But Florida, not too bad. Sarasota was the winner for us in Florida. We did well on a couple properties in Sarasota. We did a couple properties up in Clearwater and Largo. Not bad. Didn't make a tremendous amount of money, but actually beat out all of the other properties we did in the U.S. A city that I underestimated when I got there, but I will never look at it the same again. Buffalo, New York. I flipped 3 properties in Buffalo, New York, in the fall and through the winter. 2 in South Buffalo, 1 on Grand Island, and actually the most profitable property for me of the year in terms of flipping was in South Buffalo. Both properties that we did in South Buffalo were phenomenal. Here's some of the tips on why this property did so well. And I've said this before, if you've been to the live events, if you really want to make good money on a flip, it's not about buying it at retail and selling it for a premium. It's about buying it at wholesale or discount and selling it at retail. And if you sell it at a premium, that's a bonus. So here's a couple tips on how we did so well with these properties. Number 1, it was bought well, meaning this property originally was listed for $65,000, which I know is not a lot of money. But we're talking about a 2,500 square foot Victorian home, beautiful with lots of good charm and woodwork in there. But in South Buffalo, there hasn't been a lot of good news in real estate for a while, so we were able to negotiate with this seller. One of the big things is being able to be a cash buyer, meaning you're not waiting for financing, you don't have to count on appraisals. This property, which was listed at just over $60,000, we ended up purchasing it for $25,000. That's by coming in with a very clean cash buyer offer. Cash is king in some of these markets. So right there, we built in a lot of equity on the front end. We were very careful with the renovation. It was a lot of paint. It was a lot of sanding of floors. Yes, we put in a new kitchen, and yes, we updated the bathrooms. And we did a lot of landscaping as well. But this flip here, which we renovated for, I've got the timeline, was 4.5-week renovation. We made over $120,000 on this flip after all expenses. So that was the big winner. That's some pretty good ROI, buying it for $25,000 and making over $120,000 in profit. So you can guess where I'll be back, Buffalo, to do some more opportunities there. I'm just looking at some of the other details. Some of the things I just want to make sure you guys recognize is that I am taking into consideration not only all the expenses of closing on the property, all of the holding costs and interest occurred during that period on any loans, but also the closing costs and realtor fees, transfer taxes. And so that dollar value that I give you is before taxes, because we're all paying different tax rates. But that was, Buffalo was fantastic. We were averaging close to $100,000 US per property, flipping these beasts. And I really sort of had my eye on that market in that area. A lot of good things happening there. So if you're able to hone in on it, go for it. There's more properties than any of us could do at the moment. People get worried about real estate. They think it's risky. And I'm always feeling like the opposite. Real estate is the key to eliminating risk from your life. And people have said to me recently, what about all these flips? What happens if you lose money on a flip? Have you ever lost money on a flip? The answer is not every flip has made me money. Of all the flips I did last year, a couple of them actually were in the negative. Did I lose money though? No, and I'm going to explain why. I think this is a very important advanced strategy for all of you to think about, is as long as you continue to invest, you're not going to lose money. So even if you flip a house and you end up in the red, you lose, let's say you're down $25,000. It happens. Believe me, it happened to me this year. A couple of my flips, great, didn't make money. I had to sell it at discount, or just didn't get the buyers that I was thinking, and it is disheartening. You want to make money on a flip, obviously, but when you lose money on a flip, it's actually just a loss on paper, as long as you're going to have profit down the road. And what I mean by that is, I've never lost money in real estate because I've always made money later in real estate. If you have a company, a real estate company, and you take a $20,000 loss, you can carry that loss forward and write it off against future income. So at the end of the day, you didn't lose any money at all. What you did lose was some time and opportunity to make more money, which obviously would have been better. But if you think about it as a business and you look at, you look at paying your taxes, some people will walk away from a hit like that, and they'll never carry that loss or use that forward in order to offset future profits and have a tax savings. Because look at it, if you lose $20,000 on a flip and then you save $20,000 in taxes next year because you carried that loss forward, you didn't actually lose it at all. And you should think about it that way, because I meet so many real estate investors, and I don't always get to get all of our message across. You guys have been part of so many things, but one of the messages for me, when people are in an underperforming asset, or they get into a market that isn't performing well, and let's say you have a property and you're like, this property just isn't performing well, and if I sell it now, I might lose money, so I'm just going to hold it. And they suffer for years when the truth is what you should do is just cut your losses at that point, carry your losses forward, start investing in something that we can get you profitable in, and you can write that loss off against those gains, so you actually haven't lost anything at all. So don't waste your time suffering when the truth is you can use those losses as an asset later. So I hope you guys take that into consideration. Get a little bolder, get a little more aggressive, get your confidence level up, because no matter what happens with that property, there's a way to make it a winner down the road. And I never let one bad property stop me from doing 10 good properties afterwards, because I know I can use that loss as an asset, and then it goes away. So it was a big year of flipping for me. I mostly do buy and hold. Last year I did more flips than I've done in a long time. And it just reminded me of some of these techniques. I wanted to share those with you guys. And I hope that brings tons of value to you and some of the techniques you can use moving forward.